Welcome to the digital footprint and how to leverage it and your social workforce to attract and engage talent. This is a recorded playback, so what you're going to find is I'm speaking a little bit faster and there may be some additional slides to accommodate the voiceover recording of the presentation. But it's going to follow the audio content, so never fear. And if you have questions, don't be afraid to reach out. Now, Spirit Airlines was supposed to take me to Chicago on Sunday for Illinois SHRM. What was supposed to be a 2-hour flight ended up being a 14-hour flight. Thank you, Spirit. So while I was sitting in various airports watching everyone's planes but mine go about their business, it gave me time to work on my presentation, and that was good because something felt off, and it took me a little bit to figure out what that was. It's the title. While we do want to talk about digital, and it's good to understand the social workforce, the reality is we're here because we want to not just attract talent, we want to inspire and retain and keep them fully engaged. So a longer way of saying this is workforce marketing, or a shorter way of saying this is workforce marketing, and a longer way of saying it is we want to get our employer branding and our organic employee branding on the same page so that we can attract and keep the talent we want. Now, I'm talking to you about this because I've got about a decade of experience in HR and recruitment, specifically surrounding talent attraction, retention, and social collaboration. I write on these subjects, very focused on digital strategy, and I speak and train on these subjects or in conferences around the world. Defining digital, employer branding, how that's different from recruitment marketing, how that's different from social recruiting, how it makes workforce marketing and social collaboration are what we're going to discuss, but we'll start with understanding a digital footprint. Now, we pretty much all are familiar with the concept of online marketing, so focusing on an individual level is going to allow us to figure out how to later leverage that social workforce. Let's start with what makes a digital footprint. The answer on that is all of the info that can be found out about you online. Websites, blogs, trace data, your cell phone with text messaging and GPS, online conversation, photo uploads, social channels, reviews you leave, emails, basically anything you can find by entering something into the search box on Google. Now, Will Richardson wrote about this in Footprints of a Digital Age. He said, as a geeky father of a 9-year-old son and an 11-year-old daughter, one of my worst fears is that as they grow older, they won't be Googled well. Basically, a quick surf through the top 5 hits will fail to astound with examples of their credibility, their collaborative skills, and change the world work. Or even worse, there won't be any links about them to come up at all. I mean, what might your search did not match any documents imply in a world full of data? What Richardson was talking about was his child's digital footprint. And there's a lot of identifying data out there. In fact, if you were to look at how much there is in the world, there's something in the neighborhood of 1.8 zettabytes, which is about 68.75 billion iPhones full of data, each person having 45 gigs of that, only half of which they mean to upload. Now, the average Joe has 10 years of life history or more online, 27,000 items worth about 55 grand, so there is value in this footprint that you have. Now, 38 for countries outside of the US. But a fourth of people have written things online with their name on it. 2/3 have written about their job or employer, and 1 in 4 have info about themselves that appear on their company's website. Now, of all of these people, there are 4 types of online users. You have the unfazed and inactive, which is the largest group at 43%. They neither worry about the personal information nor take any steps to limit it. You have confident creatures that are actively trying to grow it. 17%, smallest population. Worried by the wayside, they understand that this could go good or could go bad, but they really don't take any steps either way. And then you have the concerned and careful. They fret about personal information available about them online, and they take steps to proactively limit their own online data and footprint. 1 in 5 adults fall into this category, many of whom are boomers. But it's this confident creature and unfazed and inactive that we have the most ability to affect, and only 38% of those 4 categories are deliberate in their brand representation online. Either way. But 4 employees can be 59.4 gigabytes of footprint data on you, on your organization, which really, when you think about it, sometimes can exceed the amount of information that you're putting out through your employer branding messaging, which is something that needs to be considered. So what is employer branding? It's the image of your company's intangible promises as an employer. It's who you are as an employer, your online employer reputation. Well, and offline too, but we're focusing on online today. Now, You may think, what promises? I'm not promising anything. But you are. You promise purpose and opportunity and value and the possibility for achievement and development, recognition and balance, all of the things that you want and crave in a career. Otherwise, you're just saying, join us, we're great, you'll love it here. Shock your candidates with all of fluff and noise. These promises are what keep that from being just noise. It's what makes the meat that people want to grab hold of. It's your substance. Now, it doesn't just stop at the candidate phase. It's your substance all the way through the employee life cycle. Now, you'll see it in various places. Areas that I really want to point out, this is push marketing. The focus is on driving awareness, reach, and sentiment. Places that people don't tend to really think about that their employer branding definitely shines through is in their employer practices. How you treat your employees, how you develop them, how you fulfill those promises, that's going to be shared. The question is, what's going to be said? And you have some control over that. Now, items in pink can be socialized by further engaging employees into this. You could probably make the argument that philanthropy can do that as well, although the company dictates much more of how philanthropic and socially responsible they are than the employee does. Now, that's at the employer, the whole organization level, right? So organizational level, employer branding. Now we go down to job and function specific to get to recruitment marketing. This is not the same as employer branding. Recruitment marketing is specialized, targeted marketing campaigns created at a specific segment of candidates surrounding, again, either a job or set of jobs or a function. So it could be like accounting or marketing, in which there are many jobs, but it all falls under that same silo. It's specific to DIGS, discipline, industry, geography, and specific role and function, because the way that you're going to market to each of those areas will change. You're not going to talk to an engineer the same way that you talk to a salesperson. They're different personality types with different drivers and touch points. Now, where you're going to find these things looks a little familiar, but there's some differences. Job board ads, community forums, internal postings, your ERP program, and social media. The focus here is on CTAs, calls to actions. So you're going to want to tell them to do something, whether that's watch a video, go to your website, apply online, clicks and applications. You're trying to see how attractive you're making your jobs, and you're focusing on the active job seeker. Those are the people that are going to most likely apply first blush without conversation to your messaging. Recruitment marketing focuses strongly on the active job seeker. For the passive job seeker, and some active, you have social recruiting. Now, social recruiting is often viewed as a channel or as a recruiting program all of its own, but the truth is it's a process underneath your overall talent attraction program. It's used to actively recruit and source candidates online, and when it started, recruiters everywhere threw up their hands and rejoiced and said, yeah, hey, no more cold calling, yes! No. Well, sort of. No more cold calling, now we warm call. The information that's gained from social recruiting still leads to offline activities and conversations, but it helps us in finding the things that are going to attract the candidate to begin with, and we use it all the way through acquisition and onboarding. You can really help make that candidate stick through the messaging and things that you put out in social recruitment. And it is the one thing that you can start in the morning, put messaging out, share a job, ask some questions, go home, and the candidate is still working and talking to you through your messaging. This happens nowhere else, not the way that it did in email. Focus on conversions, applications, interviews, and hires. This is where we want to make the hire happen. So if they were active with the recruitment marketing, we're trying to drive that down through interviews and hires. If they're passive, we're trying to get them engaged and move them through. You want to track applications, interviews, and hires through your social recruiting program just to know if it's effective. Now, cool things. Collaborative applicant tracking is the one that I really want to highlight the most, because this allows you to have multiple team members interview your candidates and put their feedback in one centralized location in the applicant tracking system, and even respond to the feedback that they leave. They can see each other's feedback if you'd like. You can crowdsource assessments on candidates from former employees and coworkers. How cool is that? We're really making strides. Now, where are we getting the hires? LinkedIn right now is sporting a 24% hire rate, which is really interesting compared to the 89% of employers that post jobs there. Facebook, 23%, Twitter, 12%, Text, 11%, niche sites like GitHub, 8%, Dribble, And employers are realizing their employees are on here too, which leads us to workforce marketing. Once upon a time, an employer could make a story about who they were as an employer, and there was really no one to contradict it because there wasn't a way to get a loud enough voice as an individual employee or even a group of employees outside of unions. With social media, that's no longer the case. So now their voices can be just as loud as the employers. So we need workforce marketing, which is the next gen of branding, recruitment marketing, and social recruiting. It basically takes involving employees in the process of a shared message with a lot of individual voices. This is important because it clears up candidate confusion. Transparency benefits everyone. So the more consistent a story is, the more likely a candidate is to believe things like how you work with friends, what pathways can be met, career pathways and challenges, can you keep them engaged, how are you going to develop them and provide purpose and balance. When your story and the employee's story match, they tend to believe it more. But of course the current state of affairs is everybody's kind of saying their own thing. If they're mad, they share that. If they're happy, they share that. And it may not even be right about your company, but it's out there. And it can be overwhelming for HR. But whether you do anything or not, the point you need to really grasp hold of is it's out there. Those stories are there. So let's try to align them. Start with looking to see how your employees self-identify. Survey your employees online. Get on LinkedIn. See if they identify with you. Do they own up to working with you? What is the sentiment of you as an employer? How much voice do you have? So if you Google yourself or Google your keywords, what other employers come up? Once you understand that, then it's time to look at your messaging. Now you know what's being said and who's saying it, so let's get some focus groups together and test out the validation of your current purpose, promise, and brand story. If you think you're promising one thing but your employees see another, that's a disconnect that you need to realign. So again, include them. You may even also want to include candidates and possibly past employees. Once you have your message aligned, now you need to train your workforce. Ask them to tell it back to you. Read it aloud. Seriously. Create small town halls where they read it to each other and giggle at how some of it doesn't make sense. Fix it. Keep going with it. Kaizen. Kaizen's the process of continual improvement, and it's wonderful. So you think you've got it right, you test it out, you break it and prove it, and you keep going until it's perfect for you. But it's got to be real. Share your successes and your failures from the leadership down. If your leadership isn't involved and employees don't know what's on their mind, it feels like they're hiding something. And if they feel like they're hiding something, they're not going to be as inclined to share their story with the world. So it may seem like you're losing control, but you never really had it. And by including employees, you can control and shape, well, not control, you can shape and influence what that almost 60 gigs of data that they're putting out about you looks like. And you can gain reach by sharing your voices. What I want to drive home with this is highlight employees and job categories in a way that aims to inspire. People understand what engineering is. They want to know what it means to you, and every job in your company has a purpose that matters, and it's your job to make sure that A, your employees know it, and B, they know you know it. Now, content categories that are really helpful in creating a strong digital footprint, breaking down your job category to job types, new jobs and locations, and sharing some of the uniqueness of each is very good. Events, press, articles about your company, employee highlights, making sure that you're sharing the good and big dates with your employees. Awesome. You need to continue to do that even outside of your external recruitment marketing. Internal employee marketing. Continue to share that through social collaboration tools, which basically is a process that helps multiple people interact, share information, and achieve common goals, one of which is increasing productivity. Now, collaborative tools, it's huge business. It offers roughly $1 billion to almost $1 trillion, $900 billion to almost $1 trillion in untapped potential by solving and addressing employee complaints. Email, meetings, conference calls, minutia, it never stops. To where employees today are spending less than 40% of their working time on what was actually their job, the core duties they were hired to do. Instead, they're being sucked away with hidden costs. 28% of their day is spent reading email, 19% researching, and only 14% on communicating with their team members in ways that will improve your profits and innovate your business. So while social collaboration tools can help with that, it can also help with your branding. Not only can you share existing messages and whatnot and collateral that you've put together, you can continually ask for content refreshes, asking for videos, the snapshots of someone's workplace, whatnot. Now, things that'll help you do that. Zoomforth, love it. Down and dirty, very quick, organic, 2-minute videos. You can ask pictures. You can also ask questions for your employees to answer. It's awesome. It's in beta. Look it up. It's open beta. Yammer is another one that's definitely worth looking at. It's got lots of neat integration tools. Spigot is very well put together for enterprise. Nice mobile application with that. Some companies are using Facebook. I would tell you to be very careful about the sensitive data that you're uploading to Facebook. You're not paying for it. So any platform that you don't pay for at all, if you are not paying for it, you don't own it. And if you don't own it, you're the product. So be careful. Final tips for adoptions. Schedule out your messages and themes. I mean, really think about what you want to say to your employees and why you want to say it. Ensure you have executive buy-in, because if they're not using your tools, it's going to be harder to adopt. But if they do use it, there's a lot of studies that show that the adoption rate skyrockets. Now, also include IT, because it's important to have a smooth rollout, and that doesn't happen in 1 day or 1 month. It's almost a year to get people fully adopted. Audit your messaging annually. You're going to need to update some things. Create ready training and support for new employees, and because 30% of your marketing sticks the first time, you've got to introduce it over and over and over again. That's it, really. If you have questions, feel free to call me. I appreciate your time very much. I know this was fast, so feel free to look it over again or just shoot me a LinkedIn message and we'll talk. Thanks.